Hey everybody, Mariah Gates here, founder and CEO of Accelerated Automation with another training video on AgencyZoom. So before we jump in, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel if you want to have more training videos and more information about insurance technology, CRMs, agency management, all these great things that we're talking about on our channel. So today we're going to talk about creating a commercial renewal pipeline inside of AgencyZoom and how that can really help your agency if you are handling commercial policies. So what you're looking at here is an example of a commercial renewal pipeline with several different stages. But to get started, we're going to go ahead and build one of these pipelines together. So if you're new to AgencyZoom, you're going to click on My Agency. You're going to go to Pipelines, and you're going to have a lot of different options. We're going to click on Create Pipeline in the top right corner, and you can see there is a Create Renewal Pipeline. Now you need to make sure you use this one because as you see here, there are a lot of different options around settings. If you use a standard service pipeline, you're not going to have these options. So let's walk through them together. The first option is when do you want a service ticket to be created inside of your pipeline. So most commercial agents that we work with are starting their renewal process about 90 days prior to the policy expiration. So you can go ahead and type that in right here or whatever fits your agency operations. You could have individual pipelines based on specific carriers if you wanted. Maybe you have segmented your agency staff where certain people handle certain carriers. So you have the option to do that. If you just want all your commercial policies to show up in one place, you're going to leave this as all carriers. We also have policy types. So again, if you want to segment this out, maybe you only do, liability policies in one pipeline or commercial auto, you can designate that as well. You'll see in the drop down, you have the ability to scroll and search here, but under carriers, you don't have that. This is actually something you have to type in and search here. So you still have the ability, but you're just not going to have a list view in this particular system. You also can include or exclude customer level tags. So that is on the customer profile itself. And you could also choose to include or exclude policy level tags that are applied specifically to these individual policies. So we've seen these used in a variety of different scenarios. Could be around VIP clients. You might have a different type of renewal process. You might want to do a different surplus lines policy renewal pipeline, and maybe you have that built in through tagging. Really depends on how you have your CRM structured and what features you're using, but you have the ability to include or exclude. What that means is if it has the tag, it'll make a ticket. If it has the tag and you want to not have it included here, if it has the tag and you've excluded the tag, it will not make a renewal ticket in this particular pipeline for that policy. You also can dictate the number of policies in the customer account. So do they have 3 or more policies? So this kind of helps you with making, like I said, maybe that VIP type of renewal process or high value client. And you also now have the ability to dictate premium levels as well. So if you have a different renewal process based on the premium level of the client, you can separate your renewal pipelines this way. You also can then decide who is going to receive the assignment of the renewal ticket. So there's an update that just happened in AgencyZoom recently. This video is being recorded on February 1st, 2025. And now you actually have the ability to dictate if it is the policy level or the account level CSR. And same thing for producer. Policy level policy level producer or account level producer. So you get to decide who is going to work this ticket. Now you may have just a specific staff member in the agency who handles all of your commercial renewals. You have the ability to do that as well. This assignment is saying who's responsible for this initial ticket. Now you can change the assignment later if you want to reassign it to somebody else throughout the process. We've worked with agencies that really silo each individual person's role, kind of like an assembly line. Like this person does the initial review, this person does the reshops, this next person does the underwriting. So you have the ability to dictate that down the line in the pipeline inside of the settings, but when the ticket is originally created, who is it going to be assigned to? That's what you're selecting here. Now you also have the category. So you should be using categories in your AgencyZoom. If you are not using categories, you're really losing out on a lot of data. The service pipelines create reports inside of the report section in AgencyZoom, and a lot of that is tied to the category. So if you want to see how many renewal tickets were handled by your operation or by a particular individual staff member, you need to be using these categories so you can see the volume. This was really interesting for me when I first got AgencyZoom Service Center. I was part of the beta testing program in the first couple of years before it launched. And when we were using it in our agency before this, I didn't really know what my service team did. Now, I knew they took care of our customers and kind of what transactions they handled, but I had no idea how much of each transaction was actually handled throughout each month or week or year. So by categorizing your service tickets and making a ticket for everything, you can really figure out what your team is doing all day long. And you can also look for ways to add automation to help streamline that, and potentially look for ways to add self-service for your clients so that you can reduce some of the service work that your team is having to handle. This really comes in handy when it comes to scaling an agency. You also can dictate priority levels. This is really agency, best practice or preference. Now, one of the other great updates from AgencyZoom, and this has been out for a little while, but I absolutely love this, we push for this so much, is the ability to automatically tag your service requests. Now, this is great if you are using tags to dictate opt-in for communication, for like call and text messages, for example. So if you're using that opt-in option, then you can pull that tag off the customer themselves by selecting the customer option, or you can pull tags directly off the policies themselves and apply them to the service tickets. So this is great. You can grab tag information and it will show up on your renewal ticket if you want to have that. You also have the ability to capture requote information. Definitely have this turned on for your renewal pipelines. A great thing to do if you are going to reshop, or even if you're going to handle non-renewals through these pipelines, because then you can actually say this is the carrier that we're working with and document the premiums and the quotes themselves. You can exclude from calculating service response time. We actually have that usually recommended to turn on in like our late payments pipelines, because you may or may not want to track that. And especially inside of our claims pipelines, we actually leave that usually off, what I mean is that we check the box to turn it off, because a claim can be open for, months or a year, depending on the severity. So there's different ways to use this, but service response time is part of the reports in AgencyZoom. So you can actually see how long is it taking to move this renewal through each stage, but also how long is it taking to complete it. If a customer has multiple policies, you can choose to only enroll the highest value policy if you choose. So that way you don't have a ticket for every one. And even still, again, you have another option here. If you decide that you want a ticket for every one, you also have the ability to do one ticket for all the policies that share a renewal date, or one ticket per policy. And I would say this boils down to preference. I have a lot of agencies who like to do one ticket for everything. I have a lot of other agencies who like to do one ticket for each policy. Sometimes that it comes into play if you have different team members who work renewals for specific policy types. And you want different tickets for different people in the organization. So again, preference, you could try it one way and you can always change these settings later and see if that works better. So the nice thing with these settings is that you can edit them down the road if you don't like the way your pipeline's set up. So let's click on Save Changes. Oh, sorry, I didn't click on the priority. All carriers. Okay, Save Changes, there we go. So now we have a renewal pipeline. You can see it defaults just to renewals. You should name this. In this case, we're talking about commercial renewals. So we usually just do commercial renewals, something short and sweet like that. And then you have the stages. Now the stages should mirror the stages of your process. In your agency, you should have a standardized renewal process. It may vary from E&S to standard carriers, or maybe even a little bit different depending on the industry or policy type. And sometimes you might want to have different pipelines for these things. I will say, general rule of thumb that we recommend, do not create too many pipelines. Too many pipelines, especially if your team has to work in multiple pipelines, it can just be a lot to manage, and sometimes they will miss going back and managing those pipelines. So you don't want to overcomplicate it for your staff. Automations and CRMs, they should be user-friendly, but robust on the back end of the build. So it has a lot of functionality, but it's easy for your team to use it. So looking at this pipeline, you can see that we have each individual stage here, and it gives you a default: annual review, renewal packet, requote, propose, and completed. Now, as you saw in the pipeline we showed you at the beginning, there was different stages there. But again, you should mirror these stages to match your process. So what we have regularly seen, and we recommend a lot of times, is we kind of have like this 90 days. It just makes you aware that this is kind of the starting point and the time frame that it's starting. And then you're going to have different stages in between. This requote one, maybe you want to open this up to include, non-renewals. But what you're going to see here is, you can change it to say whatever you want. Just edit this, change it, click the green check mark to save it. And then you can add extra stages wherever you like as well. So if you have multiple stages in your process and you need to add more, that's perfectly fine. If you want to remove any of the stages, just use the red delete button. And then once you have the stages laid out, then you get to build automation on the back end for these processes, so you can send out communication to your customers as they move through the renewal process. So now we're just going to click save, and now we've created a renewal pipeline. Now keep in mind, with renewal pipelines, we're going to scroll down here into the service pipeline section that you can see. And when you turn on a renewal pipeline, again, the type that we created, if it is on, meaning this blue toggle is here, and you can see the pipeline inside of your service center, so you can see it in the drop down, and then here's the one that we just created down here, it is going to start making service tickets for you. So once you turn the pipeline on, tickets are going to start flowing into this pipeline, because the settings are based on the expiration date of the policy. They're going to automatically create a ticket. They're not going to be waiting for your team to manually do this. So if you aren't ready to implement this, don't turn it on yet, because your team is going to start getting notifications potentially and open tickets. What an open ticket looks like, let me go back to this other pipeline, is these right here. So you can see Amy Test has a commercial auto policy. The renewal was entered on January 8th, and the renewal is actually going to happen on March 9th. So you don't want your team to start receiving renewal tickets if you're really not ready to implement this process. So you do need to leave the pipeline toggle off until you're ready to start having these tickets come in. But look at how great this is. Now, obviously this is a demo account, but you can see here, this one represents a workers' comp, there's a professional liability, a general liability. All of your renewals across your entire agency will be visible in this pipeline, as long as, of course, as all the clients are inside of your AgencyZoom. If you're connected to an AMS that downloads the book into AgencyZoom, then again, all of those policies and customers will be here, and you're going to get a ticket every time a policy is up for renewal. And then you can simply drag and drop that ticket through your process. And if you've had automation built by yourself, another consultant, or accelerated automation, because that's where we can hook you up, then you have outbound communication, and you can also have inbound notifications to your team through that automation. So how easy is this to be able to just take these tickets, move them along the process, and be able to send out communications and really know exactly where your customers are in the renewal process. Now we're here in underwriting, we're waiting for policies to come back. Our approach is that we want to keep notifying the customer, hey, we're still in this process. Don't worry, we didn't forget about you. We're looking to find the very best policy options, and we're double checking everything to make sure it's the best match. This is some of our verbiage and our automation. So we really want to take the customer along the process, and AgencyZoom is a wonderful place to do this. A lot of agents right now handle their renewals inside of their AMS using tasks. To be able to move them through, you get so much more reporting data through the service tickets. You also can text, email, or call your customer directly through the ticket. And then one of the things I really like about this, let's complete this ticket here. And then we're going to go ahead and open up. This is a survey. This is another great feature, which we're not going to get into today. Now we're going to go open up this customer Paul Johnson, because we used a service ticket instead of just a task, I can now see any of my completed service tickets for the history of this customer down here. So I just had to use this service tab. And now if I want to open this up, I can actually see all of the activities that took place in regards to this renewal transaction, making it so easy to be able to look back and see what happened, what was done for the customer, or maybe what wasn't done for the customer as well. This really helps to enforce accountability with your team, making it so much easier to see what they're doing, also making it so much easier to be able to pick up slack. If this person is getting behind, maybe your staff member's behind, maybe they're out for vacation or an illness, all you have to do is go look at all of the tickets for the entire team, and I can open up things that are assigned to other team members in my business very easily. So if you are not using the renewal pipelines in AgencyZoom, I highly encourage you to do that. If you want help with how to structure this, looking through your processes, or building robust automation on the back end, reach out to us at Accelerated Automation. We have some really great done-for-you services that we can help you with quickly. And we also offer very custom automation workflows as well to fit your agency procedures. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more content and more training on AgencyZoom.